Hello, welcome to the Renaissance English History Podcast's Tudor Minute, a mostly daily dose of all things medieval and Renaissance in England. So today I'm going to talk about Henry VIII's marital troubles. I think most people have probably heard the rhyme, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. So today I'm going to explain what each of those means. So Henry VIII's first wife was Catherine of Aragon. She was a Spanish princess, and she was sent to England to actually marry Henry's older brother, Arthur. He was the oldest son and the heir, and he wound up dying as very young, and they had only been married for about 6 months. But Catherine was such a valuable foreign policy tool that Henry VIII's father, Henry VII, kept her in England as a bargaining chip. And he kept her there for years. And it was only when Henry VII died that Henry VIII married her, and that was his first wife. But sadly, they weren't ever able to have living male children, and Henry VIII really needed a male heir. If you know anything about the Wars of the Roses, I'll talk about that sometime, you know that Henry VIII really needed a male heir really badly. And Catherine of Aragon couldn't give him one, sadly. And they only had one living child, Mary Tudor. So then Henry VIII noticed Anne Boleyn, and so they were about 15, 20 years into their marriage almost when Henry noticed Anne Boleyn, and he wanted to make her his mistress. And she said no, that she wasn't going to be his mistress. She played this really dangerous high-stakes game of hard to get. She said she would only be his queen. And so he wound up divorcing Catherine of Aragon, which he had to break from the church in Rome, caused the Protestant Reformation in England, in order to marry her. And he did marry her, but then she couldn't give him male heirs either. She gave him a daughter, Elizabeth, who became Elizabeth I. And so Henry was really ticked off by this point, because he's like, I divorced my wife, and I broke from Rome, and I'm excommunicated, and blah. So he wound up coming up with some trumped up charges to have her beheaded. So she was beheaded. Third one, Jane Seymour. She was a nice, quiet, Catholic wife, and she did give him a male heir, Edward. But then she died in childbirth. Well, right after childbirth. So she's the third one, died. Next one was Anne of Cleves. Henry was so upset after Jane Seymour died, but he needed to marry again because he was kind of an eligible bachelor, although I'm not sure how eligible he was given his marital issues, his relationship issues. But a marriage was negotiated with the Kingdom of Cleves. It was a German kind of principality, and she was a princess. And so she comes to England to marry Henry. But Henry didn't like how she looked. He didn't think she was hot enough for him because, he was so hot himself by this point. So he married her, but then he had it annulled. And so she was the fourth one, divorced. Next one, Catherine Howard. She was this very young, very immature girl, and she got all caught up in the politics of her family, and she married him, and she just couldn't handle being at that level. And she did cheat on him, which at the time was treason, because if she would have gotten pregnant, with the son, it could have been the next king. But if it wasn't Henry's, that's the whole reason why adultery in queens is actually treason, in addition to being unfaithful. But so that's Catherine Howard. And she wound up getting caught and beheaded, and that was the fifth one, beheaded. Last one survived, Catherine Parr. Catherine Parr was older and wiser, and she was just really calm, and she took care of Henry as he was dying, and she outlived him, and so she was the sixth one survived. So we have divorced Catherine of Aragon, beheaded Anne Boleyn, died Jane Seymour, divorced Anne of Cleves, beheaded Catherine Howard, and survived Catherine Parr. So those are the 6 wives. To subscribe to the Renaissance English History Podcast, you can search on iTunes or Stitcher or your podcast listening service of choice. You can also go to facebook.com/EnglandCast, EnglandCast, Englandcast, to learn more, or you can go to englandcast.com. And thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.